Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am excited to have as my guest, Billy Lahr. Let me tell you a little bit about Billy. So he's an intentional living coach and creator of the Mindful Midlife Crisis, a podcast for people navigating the complexities and possibilities of life's second half. As a coach, he gets so sick and tired of seeing and hearing "follow your passion" from social media influencer and high school graduation commencement speakers, when instead people would benefit more from recognizing and harnessing their strengths while understanding their weaknesses, mindfully exploring their curiosities, building supportive communities, establishing discipline, consistency, patience, and self-compassion. These are the principles of Billy's #1 bestseller, GPS, Guide to Purpose and Passion, which he developed after burnout forced him to step away from his 21-year career in education in 2021. For the next 2 years, Billy traveled around the world in search of meaningful experiences to reignite his sense of purpose. Throughout his journey, he discovered that many others were also in search of a new path in life, and he has used his guiding principles as a navigation tool for people seeking purpose and passion ever since. So today, I thought we would have a discussion, a conversation about how mindfulness changed and saved his life. Please welcome Billy Lahr. Hey, Billy.
Thank you for having me, Vicki. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine. Early morning mouth for some reason.
It's evening where I am,
yeah.
And
well, and no matter where and when it is you're watching this is still going to be a great conversation.
Yeah.
So today we always start with a very easy question. Please tell everybody, what do you or where do you call home? Where do you live?
Oh, that's actually an incredibly difficult question to answer right now, because
you're a nomad?
Yes, I'm a digital nomad now, and I'm originally from Minnesota. And I spent my whole life there. And then when I left my job as an educator in 2021, I'm still traveling around. So now I'm going on like 30 months of traveling, and I've gone back to Minnesota just to kind of regroup and refresh a little bit. But for the most part, I've spent most of that time in Asia, and Seoul actually has felt a lot like home for me here in the last year and a half. And I'm looking at making Seoul a long-term home here for a while. But there's also an opportunity that's presented itself in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I'm going to be looking into that as well. But right now, I am freezing myself in Hanoi, Vietnam. It's not supposed to be cold in Hanoi right now. It was not this cold last year when I was here at this same time. And I'm like, why did I pick Hanoi? But the one thing about Hanoi is that the chaos of this city is very intoxicating. Crossing the street here is a lot like Frogger, because you are dodging motorcycles and there's pedestrians everywhere and there's cars everywhere, and they all just kind of occupy the same space. So there's just, like I said, crossing the street here is quite exhilarating, but then you just have all the other senses are activated here. It's an extremely stimulating, even overstimulating city. So I'm looking forward to going back to Chiang Mai here in about a week and warming up, because it has been cold here and they don't have heat in their apartments here, because there's not really needed. No need for it. But right now I would love for some heat.
I know I had a week in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and they, in their city, they build a lot of over the street covered sidewalks. So several stories high sidewalks. So you don't have to walk on the streets, because as you said, the drivers are there's like it's worse than even Italy. There's like,
oh yeah,
everybody has a right of way and nobody.
The traffic lights are just a suggestion. So it's something else here, but it's been an exciting experience. I've been here for 3 weeks now, and I'll be here for a full month. And I was here for a week last year and just kind of got a taste of it, and now I'm spending a bit more time. One thing that was really exciting is I got to go to Banjiak Waterfalls, which is just one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen. They actually separate Vietnam from China. So I was within 10 meters of China last week, which was kind of cool to say that I've been that close. Someday I hope to visit China, but that's the closest that I've been to it at this point. So it's been a good experience.
So let's just kind of continue this discussion and share with them the backstory. I always like to hear, people see where you are today and maybe the last 3-5 years, but we're not just young chickens anymore. So how did you go from being a teacher, what kind of teacher, where did you teach, to discovering, okay, this is not for me anymore? And I noticed that it was during the pandemic. So
yeah. So it's actually more important to go a little bit further back to 2013. I was really struggling. I taught English for 15 years, and then I was a dean of students for 6 years. So in 2013, I was still teaching, but I was teaching at an at-risk program. And I myself was just struggling with my own mental health. And I was experiencing a lot of rejection, both in my personal life and my professional life. And that was manifesting into anxiety, and that kept me up at night. I wasn't able to sleep, which then led to depression, and that depression then led to thoughts of suicide. And I was really, really struggling at that point in time. I kind of hitting my emotional rock bottom. And there were a couple situations, one in particular where everything just kind of turned for me. It was February of 2013, and I was supposed to go to a friend's birthday party, and it was a Saturday night, and I told myself, all right, at 7:00 I'll leave, and then I'll get to the party around 7:30, whatever. And at 6:51, I still remember the time, at 6:51, I had this anxiety attack, and it wasn't any worse than any other anxiety attack that I'd had before, but it left me so emotionally, mentally, and physically drained that I texted my friends and said, hey, I'm not feeling well. I'm not going to make it to the party tonight. Sorry. And I woke up the next morning and I thought to myself, what the hell is wrong with me? It's the weekend. Isn't it work that's causing me all of this stress? And it clearly was there was more to it than that. And luckily, there was a psychology office literally around the corner from where I was living at that time. And I started working with a therapist by the name of Mindy Ben-Dixon. And anytime I do an interview, I always give Mindy a shout out, because she's the one who introduced me to mindfulness. And when I say that practicing mindfulness and cultivating a practice ever since 2013, so for what, the last 11 so years, when I say that it not only changed my life, it most likely saved it, I mean that. I mean that because I was really in these deep, dark depths of depression at that time. So I remember too that in October of that next school year, I had my sophomores who I had as freshmen, and one of them said to me, "Mr. Lahr, you seem like you're in a better mood this year." And that was kind of the proof of purchase that this whole mindfulness thing was working, because clearly there was a palpable energy, that was a different energy that was coming from me, a more positive energy, a more patient energy, a more compassionate energy, a more open, curious energy was coming from me during that time. And I thought to myself, well, if this mindfulness thing can help a nut job like me, I wonder if there's other people out there like me who are very high intensity, who are high anxiety, who are high energy, who would benefit from learning about mindfulness. And I remember having a conversation with someone a couple months back, and she said, "Don't you feel like mindfulness and meditation have a PR problem?" And I do, because so many of the mindfulness and meditation teachers out there, they kind of have this persona, and it's maybe not even the persona, it's just how other people view mindfulness and meditation teachers as people who are sitting cross-legged, sipping green tea and by a river, and just sitting in silence for hours on end. That's not me. Like, that's not me. I practice mindfulness so that I can regulate the emotions that I have, that I can regulate the anxiety, that I can process through those things. And it doesn't mean that I'm pushing those thoughts and feelings away. And I really learned how to manage that anxiety in a much, much healthier way. I still have anxiety. I still struggle with things, but I'm able to process them in a much better way. And I remember one of the nicest things that anyone has ever said to me is, "Billy, the reason why I like you is because when you're excited about something, you want everyone else to be excited about it too." So I wanted to take a leave from education. I'd planned on doing that for years and years and years anyway, but I always had a dog, and the dog was getting older. I didn't want to travel with the dog. I just kind of wanted to wait until she crossed the Rainbow Bridge. And then that happened in April of 2020. So it gave me a full school year to kind of plan my leave. And then when I was on leave, I just decided to resign, because there wasn't going to be a way for me to transition back into that dean of students position again. And I've been doing the podcast and doing some coaching here and there, and really just trying to enjoy this traveling experience. And I think the last few months, to say the last 8 months, have been a little bit more challenging for me, but I have a little bit clearer vision now as to which direction I want to go, and there are some opportunities that have presented themselves, and looking forward to that. And I kind of credit. I'll tell you that being a digital nomad, everybody says, "Oh, you're living the dream. You're living the dream." There's a lot that goes into being a digital nomad, that you, especially emotionally, that you're navigating. Being a digital nomad is not being on vacation permanently. There's a lot that you have to manage, and someone like me who really enjoys being around people, I get my energy from people. I'm starting to realize that I don't know that being a full-time digital nomad is my thing. I feel like maybe the hybrid might be more my thing. And it was good to kind of come to this recognition. But at this point, I'm just kind of riding out this experience until August, when some of these opportunities arise.
Yeah. I've interviewed several digital nomads too, and it is, that loneliness. If you go from a different place to a different place, if you go back to, say, the same place, year after year for a bit of time, then you create relationships, and it's maybe not as lonely for you, but the excitement of going from it to a new place at a new time is also that I don't know anybody, I don't know the language, I don't know the culture, I feel outside.
Yeah, it's a constant shift. And it's one of the reasons why I spent so much time in Seoul, because I did make a really solid connections with people that are there. So, I really enjoy Seoul. I have a lot of friends that are there, but, you kind of hit it on the head. Every month or every 90 days, I mean, depending on how long you're going to stay or, what the visa is for that country, you're always kind of looking ahead like, okay, well, I know that this is an impermanent place. I mean, everything is impermanent, but this is much more short term. And if people are like, well, you can just extend your visa. Yeah, then you have to go to the visa office, and you have to figure all that stuff out. It's all part of the process. And again, it's an amazing experience. But to say that you're living the dream, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And especially you kind of make those superficial relationships with people, and then they come and go. It's a very transient lifestyle. And so navigating that isolation, navigating those feelings of loneliness, it's really important to, be able to kind of sit with what those feelings are like. And then even kind of ponder, okay, like this place really feels like home. Is there a way that I can make this my home? And that's what I found with Seoul was, I just an opportunity there to stick around a little bit longer. legally,
yes. All right. So, we made mention about the fact that you say that following your passion is utter nonsense. So I wanted to stay with that for a little bit and talk a little bit about that, because I know that that was one of my journey, one of my discoveries in my journey in life too. So go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
Oh, I'm actually curious. Can I ask you? So you came to the same conclusion that follow your passions is complete and utter nonsense?
I think it's just semantic, maybe.
Okay.
Because follow your passion sounds interesting, exciting, almost like being a digital nomad sounds like, oh wow, that's better than sliced bread. But I think for me it was really not passion, but having a purpose is what I discovered was more.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you said that, because that's a great segue into what I kind of teach people is that passion is a byproduct. Passion is not a starting point. It's an end point. It is an end point. It's someplace that you get to, and you get to it based on my experience, based on my research, based on the conversations that I've had. You get to it by, first finding your purpose. But how do you find your purpose? What if you don't know what it is that kind of lights you up? People say, well, passion is what lights you up. No, it's not. It's really not what lights you up. It's the purpose that kind of lights you up. So then if you're not sure what your purpose is anymore, what gives you meaning, my suggestion, what I have found, is to first start with, what are you good at? What are your strengths? Understand your strengths. But also on the flip side, make sure you understand your weaknesses too, but then also understand your needs. And I feel like love languages can come into this. I know that Dr. Gary Chapman has like love languages at work too. Like, and you're not having office relationships. That's not what he's implying. What he's saying is like what motivates you at work, or what kind of what affirms you that you're doing a good job at work, that you are valued at work. Right. So what are those needs, and understanding that those are all really, really important to understand. And then secondly, once you've kind of understood that, taking a look at what are you still curious about? What are some new curiosities that you have? What are some things that you want to learn? What are some things that you used to enjoy doing that you haven't done that maybe would come back to you and you're like, oh, hey. And then how can you use your strengths in order to continue to seek those things out? But then, and I think this is what's most crucial, is your community, your connections, your crew, because those are the people who are going to show you different opportunities. They're going to provide different insights when it comes to those curiosities. And if you're someone who's maybe struggling with self-limiting beliefs, they're people that you can look at and say, oh, hey, you're kind of the guide in all of this. You're sort of my mentor. There's nothing wrong with comparison. We often hear comparison is a thief of joy. No, it's not. Comparison can actually be a great motivator for people. Envy is the thief of joy. So when we take a look at our community, we take a look at our crew, and we see, all right, who's in here that inspires me? Who's in here that kind of works in the same area of curiosity that I am exploring as well? And let me learn from them. Let me connect with them. Let me network with them. When we do that, then we land at purpose. We understand then what our purpose is. Because part of our community then is finding our audience. You had to find an audience for this podcast. And when I was doing my podcast, the purpose was to help people navigate the complexities and possibilities of life's second half. Right. So we had to find our audience. And when I would get messages from listeners, that kind of fanned the flames of purpose right there. But then how do we turn purpose into passion? Because again, passion is a byproduct. So if we look at purpose as kind of our home, then we look at passion as maybe our summer home or our beach home, something like that. So if we need to take purpose, multiply it by consistency, discipline, patience, and self-compassion, and that gets us to passion. Coaches all the time talk about discipline and consistency. Rarely do they talk about patience and self-compassion. Those are really crucial because the reality is when you're a beginner, you suck. You're not good at it. So then how are you going to be patient and how are you going to be compassionate? But then how are you going to instill that discipline and that consistency? And another thing too that I think is really important to mention is this idea that passion doesn't have to be your life's work. Passion doesn't have to be your job. It doesn't have to be your career. Sometimes a job is a job that pays you money so that you can do your passion.
Yeah.
You know, so we're continuing to indoctrinate people that no, you have to work your passion, you have to work your purpose. No, like your purpose and your passion could be something that's not your job, and your job can just be something that you enjoy doing, something that you're good at that pays you. And then outside of that, you're like, oh, this is something else that I do. And this really lights me up. And that's okay too. The people who have figured out, or who have found a career that is both their purpose and their passion, they're the lucky ones, but they're the few. And it's okay to separate job from passion. And I get sick and tired of people selling that lie. And so that's why, as having sat through enough high school commencement speakers who say follow your passions out there, if you're ever asked to be a high school commencement speaker, please don't say that to the students.
So how do we replace the to-do list with the chips? And what is a chips list?
Yeah, so to me, a to-do list just keeps you busy. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's just, here's a bunch of stuff that you could do. A chips list is something that actually prioritizes. So The C in CHIP stands for complete. These are the things that need to get completed today. They cannot wait until tomorrow. You have put them off for too long. They need to get done today. 3 to 5 things that need to get done today. That way you can cross them off the list. And then the H stands for hooray. So basically you're just celebrating the fact that you got those things done. And I always caution people, don't use food or alcohol as your hooray, because then it kind of creates this tricky relationship with food and alcohol. We see them as rewards. They're not rewards. So let's not treat them as such. But a reward, and same with exercise. Those are lifestyle choices that we have. But maybe it's watching your favorite TV show. Maybe it's just kind of going out and meeting up with your friends. So just a small hooray to celebrate that, hey, I got these things done. Good for me. And then IPS stands for in progress and start. These are things that if you have enough mental bandwidth to continue on working throughout the day, that you just say, okay, I'm going to start this, or I'm going to move the progress bar along on this, knowing that if you start it, that eventually it's going to end up in the complete list. So if you're going to start it, then it's going to move to in progress, and you can move it along, but then know that, hey, that should get done someday so that you can take that off of the list.
Very good advice. So we want to talk now a little bit about your weekly newsletter. You've been giving a lot of great advice and insights for folks. And so talk about what's in your weekly newsletter, the Mindful Midlife Community newsletter.
Yeah, so I've been leading what I call meditate and mingle sessions. And I'm taking a little break from that, but what I would include in the meditate and mingle sessions is just a summary of what we discuss in those meditate and mingle sessions. So meditate and mingle, we just kind of do a quick 5-10 minute check-in with everybody and say, hey, what are you bringing into today's session? What's present? What do you need to get out of today's session? So now that you just kind of know with what is present here, let's sit with that, and then we move into the practice, and it's a guided practice, and that usually lasts for about 15-20 minutes. Again, we are not sitting for an hour meditating, staring at a screen and not talking to each other. No, it's a guided practice. So you hear my voice throughout that. People can go to the YouTube page and they can hear what one of those what one of those guided practice sound like. But then we have a conversation, and I usually ask the same question over and over again, which is, what came up for you during this practice? What was difficult during this practice? What surprised you during this practice? What did you notice during this practice? And then from there, we can have a conversation. And even though it's the same 4 questions every single week, it's a different experience. Even if we were to do the same practice, it would be a different response. So I take all that information and I put it into the newsletter and I send that out. And then I also, I'd send out a couple during the week. So one is for the meditate and mingle, or just some mindful living tips, intentional living tips that people can use. I try to make them practical, like drinking coffee. Drinking coffee can be a mindfulness practice, just activating all 5 senses in order to before even taking a sip, and just allowing that to be a mindful moment where you can just be still, you can be present, and you can actually enjoy your coffee. And I wanted to do this because my co-host, Matt Hazard, he's a coffee connoisseur. And I asked him, yeah, but when was the last time you sat and enjoyed your coffee? You brew this coffee. You have a coffee membership subscription, and they send you these coffee K-cups or whatever. And they're tailored to your liking. But do you actually sit and enjoy them? And he was like, no, I just kind of brew it and then I sit down and I go to work. And I'm like, all right, let's try this mindful drinking. And people can do mindful eating as well. I've led mindful eating sessions with them too. But because I'm traveling and people are actually oftentimes more interested in the travel than they are in practicing mindfulness, which is a shame, but I try to include what I'm doing on my travels as well in the newsletter. So that way, if people are like, oh, you're in Hanoi, you've been to Seoul, you've been to Thailand, you've been to Portugal, you've been to Mexico City, what is there to do and see in those cities? Who should I meet in those cities? Because I've met a lot of people. What kind of tours should I do? What sort of areas should I hit if I want to get away from the touristy spots? So I like talking about those kind of things too. So I try to include that in the newsletter as well.
Awesome. So one final question. What has been one unexpected outcome for the past 2 years?
An unexpected outcome. There have been, I guess there have been two situations, one kind of current, I guess. But when you're traveling around, just kind of going back to this idea of relationships, I mentioned it's kind of the superficiality of it too.
Right.
And I really didn't think that that I was going to become attached to someone emotionally, and not that I was putting up walls or anything like that, but I found myself in a situation last year in Seoul where I thought it was just going to be kind of a fling, and then it turned into something more. And I realized that, oh, we're in love with each other, but this is going to come to an end at some point in time. And because we want different things in our life, this is going to be hard. But it was a feeling that I hadn't had in a while, and that felt really good to experience that love again. But then at the same time, it was quite easy for both of us to just be like, we know that this is going to end, and so we're going to let each other go, and we're going to move on from it. But I didn't think, and even when I first met this woman, I didn't think that this was the direction that it was going to go. And it did. And I think when we allow ourselves just to kind of be open to possibility, even though we knew that things were going to end, I know neither one of us would change a second of time that we spent with each other. And now I find myself a year later in a very similar situation, and it's current. And I'm like, okay, what did I learn from the last situation? And how can this be more sustainable and long term? So when I say that there's an opportunity for me in Chiang Mai, that's what I'm looking at.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. Yeah. You never know until you know.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen now for all of those that are listening and watching. If you're just listening, you should have been taking notes all along. But go grab that paper and pencil to be able to write down the website for Billy. And if you're watching, you can grab that screenshot. So the website for Billy is just his name, Billy Lahr. That's BILLYLAHR.com, BillyLahr.com. LinkedIn is also his name. Instagram is mindful_midlife_crisis, Mindful Midlife Crisis. And YouTube, he gave us a bit.ly that you can grab for that. And then I'm going to turn it over to Billy to talk to you about what you'll find on his website or any of the social media he'd like to direct you to.
Yeah. I'm pretty prolific on Instagram and on LinkedIn, so you'll get all the good content there, as well as the newsletter if people want to sign up for that. Like I said, I'm taking a break from the Meditate and Mingle sessions, but if people are interested in those being renewed, then they can sign up for the newsletter, and I'll get that going once again, just with some things that are going on and prioritizing some other things here. So, I really enjoy doing those Meditate and Mingle sessions because I have people from all over the world who join those, and they bring such unique experiences to those sessions. So, I really enjoy. I don't like doing the DM and the emails, and I'll respond to all those. But if you go to the website, www.billylahr.com, you can schedule a call with me, like a Zoom call, and we could talk about mindfulness. We can talk about travel. I'm also a certified personal trainer. We can talk about fitness, or if you just need someone to talk to, let's chat. I want to hear your story, and I enjoy having those conversations with people. So there's also links to the podcast, the Mindful Midlife Crisis, if people want to check that out. Yeah, in a lot of the work that I'm doing now is focusing towards helping educators navigate burnout, as well as helping digital nomads navigate the isolation and the work. I don't like that phrase work-life balance, but for lack of a better term, we'll call it work-life balance that comes with being a digital nomad, but then also wanting to explore. So how do you instill daily routines in your life as a digital nomad so that you don't get pulled too much in one direction or the other?
Awesome. Well, Billy, it's been just wonderful chatting with you. You gave some really wonderful advice for our audience. And I do hope that the audience does take advantage of reaching out to you and that kind offer to be able to just chat. People need people, and isolation is not only for the digital nomads. So if you are out there and you are needing to be more mindful, definitely reach out to Billy. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.